I think a lot of people just really misunderstand Mr. Freeze. He's not a bad guy who's out to cause terror and to be a terrible person. He really just wants his wife back and sees that anything that he does to try to get her back is therefore justified. Much of what he does in the game, he's coerced into by Hugo Strange and Boyle. He doesn't want to do it, but his wife is being held hostage. None of this suffering was necessary. If he had simply been left alone to do his job at Gothcorp and save his wife on the side, this whole mess would never have started. I really do think he's been a victim of circumstance. This doesn't necessarily justify his actions, but it certainly does explain them. Mr. Freeze isn't like the other villains in the game. He doesn't demonstrate any kind of psychopathology. He doesn't have a deficient emotional response. He doesn't have a lack of empathy. He doesn't have any kind of issues with behavioral control. He really is altogether. He's there. He's not being vindictive. He's not being a sadist. He's really just trying to deal with the trauma of having lost his wife. And that's what this is all about. And for him, this is the center for everything that he does. This is the very essence of his being. He has a great deal of emotions. He's in terrible pain because of his wife's condition. If he was a psychopath, he simply wouldn't care about her because she'd be of no use to him. He's not like the Joker. He doesn't have a kind of egocentric, sadistic behavior. For him, he doesn't hurt people for pleasure. That's not what this is about. Everything is about a goal to reach something, to help someone that he loves. There is a cognitive dissonance in his mind. He is doing things that are wrong. He is hurting people. But in his mind, they are all justified. They are all part of a process that's necessary to save someone he loves. This is very much like what you would see out of a contract killer working for the mafia, who stands over his victim and says, it's not personal. It's just business. That is the rational detachment they make in their minds between the conscience of the morality of what they're doing and they're actually doing it. To Freeze, this is all means that justify an end, meaning he's not actually taking pleasure in what he's doing. I think he's been fighting to save his wife for so long that he's lost sight of other things and people in his life. This has become an obsession for him for obvious reasons. This is all that matters to him. The obsession with saving his wife is blocking him from participating in different aspects of his life. This is a major source of anxiety for him. It's the whole focal point of his life.
Horror was all I could think of. I reran the diagnostics, re-examined every detail from every angle, certain that I had missed something. I cursed myself for being so blind, so stupid. Surely there was a cure. I just needed more time. Then I realized what I had to do. I had worked without sleep for a week. My needs didn't seem important. Sleep didn't matter. Food didn't matter. There was only her. I looked at Nora and I told her that I loved her. She told me there was nothing I could do, that we should just accept fate.
In another Batman series, a rich man approaches him and wants Freeze's power for long life. And Freeze scoffs at him in his ignorance. And Freeze tells him straight up, I'd trade 1,000 of my frozen years for your worst day.
Oh, miserable to you, but a godsend to me. Look at me, Mr. Freeze. I'm an old man. I've created wonders in my lifetime, but there is still so much to do. I want to change as you have, to become, like you, a being of blessed eternal cold.
You're insane.
Only you have the know-how to duplicate the accident that made you what you are. What I long to become.
You want to live like this, abandoned and alone. A prisoner in a world you can see but never touch. Old and infirm as you are, I'd trade 1,000 of my frozen years for your worst day.
Freeze yearns for a normal life. He doesn't want to deal with the criminal element of Gotham City. He doesn't want to go through all this process of making deals with shady people and then having to fight them and then engage in crime to get the resources necessary to keep Nora alive. He really just wants to return to being a regular, everyday guy, just to be with his wife and live a normal life again. So he doesn't enjoy this. He doesn't want to be doing it. This is all a part of a struggle that he has to go through as a result of his wife's condition.
Think of it, Batman. To never again walk on a summer's day with a hot wind in your face and a warm hand to hold. Oh yes, I'd kill for that.
Strange is holding his wife hostage, which honestly is an incredibly low, dirty, disgusting thing to do.
Simple. If you hurt me, your wife will die.
Where is she? Where is my wife?
Nora is in safe hands.
Using that control over his wife and using that to coerce him, Hugo Strange gets into Freeze's head, gets him to talk about his childhood and what that was like for him, how his parents had actually disowned him. He starts talking about how when he was a child, Freeze ended up getting sent to a boarding school because he had taken several pets from the local neighborhood and frozen them. It says how his parents didn't understand his work.
What do you wish to learn?
Your early years were troubled.
I was not a sociable child, but that is all.
Even your parents disowned you. They sent you away to a reform school, correct?
They did not understand my work.
Your work? According to a police report, you froze over a dozen of your neighbor's pets.
I have always had an interest in cryonic preservation. I didn't understand why my parents allowed our sick pets to die instead of attempting to save them. So I set about finding my own way. I intended to revive all of those creatures.
But you didn't. Which brings us to Nora.
Now, a lot of people have interpreted that as torturing animals and that being an early sign of antisocial personality disorder, a kind of psychopathy, a kind of zoo sadism, as the term goes, to enjoy hurting animals. But when you look at what he's saying, when you listen to him, what he was doing was for a goal. He has a twisted way of understanding it and a twisted way of rationalizing it. But what he was doing was he said he did not understand why his parents let the pets die when they could be saved. To him, he was saving them. He was going out of his way. He was showing compassion for these animals that he loved and was conducting these experiments in order to try to save them, and was astonished. He was hurt by his parents' lack of compassion for the pets in his family. This is not something that a person who would have psychopathy would do. They would just simply not care. In fact, many of them would even enjoy hurting them. But that's not what Freeze did. He went out of his way and engaged in scientific research in order to try to save them. Now, this is not the right way to go about it. This is the wrong way to do it. But it certainly demonstrates the rationale in his mind. This wasn't about causing pain. This was about compassion. This was about trying to save animals. I also noticed that there's one particular point in this interview that sums up Dr. Hugo Strange just perfectly.
Do you know what it is to love someone? To really love them?
No.
Yeah, you might want to get that looked at. But in the end, when Strange gives Freeze his analysis of him, he is completely wrong. And I suspect that he is wrong deliberately in order to manipulate Freeze, in order to cause him distress. Because I don't believe that Strange would just simply get this wrong. tells Freeze that everything is his fault when largely what's there, he is a victim of circumstance. And he did not always make the correct reaction to it. He did not always handle everything well, but these were circumstances that were beyond his control.
You failed to kill Ferris Boyle, though, didn't you?
Yes.
Why?
You know why. Batman. Though he did return Nora to safety until you got her.
See? There you go. Blame me, blame your parents because you failed to revive the neighbor's pets. Blame Ferris Boyle for spoiling your plans to cure Nora. Blame Batman for stopping your revenge against Boyle. And now, your Nora is in danger.
Because of you.
No, Victor. Because of you. You have always had a heart of ice. You stole people's pets. You stole GothCorp resources. And since then, you've stolen so much more for your own selfish scientific inquiries. If you had shared your genius with others, devoted your energy to medicine instead of crime, perhaps your ice princess would be at home now, preparing you a hot meal instead of being delivered to the Joker.
No!
You could have saved Nora a long time ago, Victor.
It's all for her. Everything. I will get her back. And when I do, I'm coming for you.
Thank you. We are done now.
Nora.
He accuses Freeze of simply being selfish. Now, the truth is far more complicated than that. Clearly, he wasn't someone just out for himself. His compassion for his wife is what drove him to these actions. He's allowed them to get out of hand, made unethical decisions in order to keep researching for her cure. But just to say he was being selfish is total nonsense. And Strange, you really are just holding that guy's wife hostage. This really is your fault. And to be perfectly honest, Strange really is a bad person.
My wife.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of The Analysis. I'm Jason Unruhe. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.